welcome once again to It's a Frankly Harry podcast. It's your host, Frank Weber, welcoming you again to the forest. So glad that you can be here. I have a really packed show for you today. It's not one that I really spent a lot of time planning for, and I don't really have just one topic today, but I actually have several personal stories that you may be interested in, and I'll try to put a little bit of a spin and make them as entertaining as I possibly can. I wanted to start off initially talking about my current endeavors, starting with the podcast. Excited about the podcast. I'm getting a fair amount of hits every week, so it's slowly growing, and I thank you so much, those of you who are tuning in regularly and maybe even becoming super fans. I don't know if that's quite the term that I should use just yet, but maybe it is. I don't know. If you are a super fan, certainly write me back and let me know about it. You seem to be kind of in the shadows, but I know that you're there. So, but I thank you greatly for tuning in and checking it out every week. I have a lot of ideas and plans for this show, as you know. I'm still going to continue it on and on and on and on. But, you know, there are always some modifications. I'm always thinking about how to make things better. I'm still wanting to have a lot of guests, but I told you before that I'm kind of shy and I don't really know exactly how that would work out. But I have ideas for how long I would have them on and asking them questions, doing an interview type deal. That's something that I'm definitely still looking at and working on, and I'm going to start reaching out pretty soon to see who we can get on here. Just to let you know some other things, I have some extra episodes made, a couple of them that I wasn't as happy about for whatever reason. I may release those as bonus episodes here in the not too distant future. Related to that, I'm also not wanting to record each episode more than 7 to 10 days out, just for the sake of, I guess, newness of material and current events in case I come on here and need to talk about something really important. I mean, we always talk about important things. I mean, this is talking about deep issues that should be important to all of us, things that don't often get mentioned. And I want to bring them out of the ground, bring them to light. So it's better if we can have shows that are ideally not more than a week out in terms of recording and content. Of course, that may change a little bit if we get actual guests on and are talking to them every week. But as far as the current format goes, that's my plan right now, but I'm really happy about where things are going with it. I think there's nowhere to go but up. Very excited about it. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm trying to make it kind of fun and lighthearted and enjoyable, although I know some of these topics get kind of deep. Got some good stories coming up here in just a little bit, though. As far as Substack articles go, as you know, I'm doing 2 a week, one on Tuesday and one on Thursday. That seems to be doing pretty well. Thinking about whether we might be able to get more hits if I do it in a video format. That would be something that I'm looking at experimenting on. In fact, this week, which is the week of September 23rd, I may just do that. Just as an experiment, I may do that with Tuesday's article and just release a video on Thursday to see how it is received. I'm also, of course, thinking about video for this podcast, but I think it would be better to do it with guests, in case you haven't heard that already. And I also tried something on my Substack. Just came out this morning. This is all experimental just to see how it takes, but they have a new thing called Discussion Post. And I would invite you to go and check that out as well. There's the topic that I used is I got this flyer in the mail last week that our local school district here in Canyon ISD. I'm putting it out there that they want to do a small tax increase to vote on at the November election. And there was also something on the news about the city needing more police and firefighters. So my wife, who is not, I mean, she's a sweet lady and smart and brilliant and everything. She's not quite as logical and deep thinking, maybe critical thinking as I am, has told me a couple of times that in a growing area like this, and this, I know it all depends on the math, but in a growing area like this, do we really need a huge tax increase, considering that there's all these people have moved in and already increased the tax base? They're already paying their property tax and their local sales tax and all this stuff. So the question becomes, based on the math, would any tax hike that we vote on, or heaven forbid don't vote on, are they really necessary? And so I put that out there for discussion. I'll see if I get a lot of response. I don't know if I worded it the correct way. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, as far as my endeavors of late, before we get into some other topics, we'll take as long as we need on this show, by the way. Forget about a 15 or 20 minute time limit. We'll go as long as we need to. Anyway, I've also been dabbling, of course, in authoring books of various genres. And it's been a time. I'm not real familiar with a lot of the publishing industry. Of course, there's several different ways to get published now. Traditional publishing versus self-publishing, or maybe audiobooks is kind of related to self-publishing, I think. Typically, if you go the latter two, you will get published. You'll have to spend some money getting there, though. And then once you're published, you're not really guaranteed to sell. And that sounds, you can sell a few for sure and try to get your money back, but it's not guaranteed to necessarily sell once published. The traditional publishing route, which for my first book, which was a literary fiction book about a guy who, a widowered guy who goes into outer space on a routine mission, has some problems in space and has to land on a planet populated with all women. Okay, I call it stranded fantasy. I consider it also to be what they call literary fiction, which is actually a genre that crosses over lots of different genres. Like for me, it would be sci-fi, some fantasy, action adventure, maybe a little romance, a little bit of sexiness, some drama, some suspense. I mean, it's kind of all over the place. And usually they say that the traditional publishing route to go to the big-time publishers would be the best for that type of book, literary fiction, okay? And I've had some issues with that. You have to go through what's known as a literary agent in order to go to one of the big publishers. But it's kind of cool if they accept your book and they want to pursue it with a publisher. They basically kind of hold your hand and take you through the process and pitch your book to the publishers. They basically go out of their way to help you with that. And of course they get a commission, if the book sells to the publisher. But a lot of times what's happening now, and I haven't met any of these people, and I'm not trying to judge them or anything like that, but there's a lot of people who say that the system is kind of antiquated now, maybe outdated, given that there's alternative routes of publishing. The rejection rate among literary agents for any one book is extremely high. They are looking for a lot of things in terms of standard formats, which is something that I am still not really aware of what that entails exactly. And then they are also very picky on what kinds of books they're looking for. A lot of them are experts in certain genres and not experts in other ones. And I think in the world that we live in nowadays, with a lot of this woke kind of politically correct bullshit nonsense, they're looking for things of that flavor, and are talking about things of like underrepresented writers and crazy shit that I've never heard of before. I mean, there's a lot of people who are technically underrepresented, whether it was women or other minorities historically, but a lot of them have managed to get published for many, really hundreds of years now, ever since Gutenberg started his printing press. But there's something about my story that everybody has rejected. They reject it, but then they give no feedback. They can't tell you how to make it better. I think it's a good story. Maybe it still needs some work, but they basically rejected me, and I don't really know where to go, which is kind of the real problem with the system these days. If I knew where to go, I could improve it and send it back. So I don't really know where Stranded Fantasy, my first project with the guy stranded out in space on the planet of women, is going to go. I kind of wonder, and I know this is an assumption, and I'm not trying to jump to conclusions, but I think a lot of the agents think that this is somehow an outdated story, possibly sexist or whatever, and it's not. I send them a query letter, I send them a pitch, and I don't think they barely get to read any of the novel because their sample size that they want is so small. But I don't know, they're just rejecting me, and I don't know what to do with it. It's a great story, and I can't wait to get it out there. I just don't really know how to get it out there, and that seems to be a lot of what's going on in my life right now with these endeavors. I think I'm on the right track. Just got to keep going, but I don't have a lot of guidance. So please reach out to me or pray for me or something to help me get going on this, because it means a lot. I did start since the literary agent queries. I did try to start on another book about my dental school experience, but it wasn't flowing very good. It was supposed to be kind of a fictionalized account, but it just didn't flow very good. I didn't feel really that great writing it. Something that I'd still like to pursue for sure. And then I started writing another book that was sort of like a James Bond-ish, kind of like Dan Tana Vegas sort of story. It takes place in Las Vegas, kind of an action-adventure, detective or spy or whatever. I started writing something like that, but that hasn't felt real good either. I think I'm going to do maybe an anthology of short stories on this topic that's really important to me these days, called body acceptance, which encompasses things like naturism and nudism, and understanding that nudity does not equal sex. It also is about being open and honest about our bodies and our sexuality, which is part of the reason that we have an issue in this country with sex education and perhaps confusion in a lot of people about who they are or what sex or gender they're supposed to be or what sexual preference they're supposed to be. I was thinking about doing that. Any kind of art, the point of doing any kind of art, of course, though, is to try to change the world and try to influence people as best you can. There's a lot of things, as many of you know, there's a lot of things that are not right with our world. But if I can reach out to people and get some people to change their minds and get a new perspective on things, that would be worth it all. And that's the point of all these things that I just mentioned to you. In doing these endeavors and this new line of work versus my old line of work in healthcare. Anyway, let me just take a quick pause, and I'll be right back, and we'll get into some storytelling. All right, so the next portion of the show, I know we're already 15 minutes in. I'm just going to take as much time as I need to today, so don't expect a particularly short show. But I love telling personal stories, sharing things about my life. And one of the things that happened this weekend, some of you may know I hold season tickets to Texas Tech football, and the team is now 3-1, by the way, after the win over Arizona State. They're on perfect track to be 9-3 at this point, which is where I think we needed to be to make sure there's progress and what have you. But the problem is I don't really know how good or bad the team is, and that's true for most of the teams in the Big 12 at this point. So we just take it week by week and see where it goes from there. But for most of the games in September, maybe one more after September, I'm not really sure yet, I've been selling my tickets and parking passes, and this week for the Arizona State game, I managed to sell my parking pass 2-3 weeks ago, but for some reason I wasn't able to sell my tickets, even though they were pretty reasonable for the area that we were sitting in. So we decided just to go to the game because they had been on the market for 3 or 4 weeks and weren't selling, and had a blast. But I didn't really want to talk about the game and the team and stuff because I know that's a very limited issue, trying to have a broad appeal here. We always wind up, when we go down to Lubbock, we always wind up going to Costco first because my wife always wants to shop there. It's a great store, but I'd rather be on campus partying all the time. I think I said that in one of my old podcasts last year. But while I was outside waiting on her before the game, there was Larry the Cable Guy, and his show on Sirius XM came on and talked about how he was annoyed at the Blue Chew commercials that are on TV all the time. He basically said they make no sense because all the women that are pictured on there are supermodels peddling that this Blue Chew is a miraculous drug for their boyfriend's libido and his boners, I guess. And of course he commented, this is the kind of observation that I'm trying to develop here on this, but he commented that if you can't I guess be aroused with these women, then you have some serious deeper problems than just needing to take a drug, right? Anyway, I observed, because last night I was watching The Fall Guy on the H&I channel, and I'm not sure Blue Chew channels come on that channel, but there was a Weight Watchers commercial where I'm pretty sure one of the supermodels from the Blue Chew commercial was in the Weight Watchers commercial, and I'm absolutely like, I don't believe it. I don't believe she needs Weight Watchers at all. But it's interesting when you see people who do solely commercials show up in different commercials, and you're not really sure why they're peddling it other than to, make a little money and get a paycheck. But one of the odd things about those Wang meds, as some people call them, years ago, Viagra and Cialis, when they first started advertising them, basically back when they first could advertise them on TV, and Cialis did the bathtub thing or whatever, they wouldn't tell you what the drug is for, and it's not always readily apparent what they were trying to sell at the time, and those drugs were fairly new. Blue Chew, of course, is another erectile dysfunction medication. I find it odd that they can't tell you specifically what it's used for. That's another offshoot of the body acceptance problem in our society, is that we're not able to talk openly and frankly about our bodies and our sexualities and our need for enhancements, if in fact you do need an enhancement. I think it's really kind of sad that we can't do that. I can't wait to ride on that, though. Yeah, I mean, they should just get out there and say it. I don't know why everything has to be so hidden. And I say open and frank discussion. That's great, because my name is Frank. This is the Frankly Hairy podcast, and I have a forest, which I sometimes associate with my hirsuteness, hairiness, that sort of thing. Anyway, moving on. We had a good time at the game, as I said. Because I had sold my parking pass for this game, we wound up parking in a remote parking section kind of far away. The parking itself was free, but there was a bus shuttle that you had to pay for, $6 a piece. I couldn't get the app to work. Everything is so cashless now. Very frustrating. Cash is quicker. It's faster. I don't think it's particularly more dangerous. People have gone crazy with the cashless thing after COVID, but I couldn't get the app to work. And then the guy, and then a lady and a couple of others were really trying to help us. Couldn't get it to work, so we got lucky and got a free ride. So I thank City Bus in Lubbock for that, because otherwise we wouldn't have had to. I mean, we paid nothing for parking and riding, and that was originally the way it would have been in my parking spot. So we got lucky, and praise be to the Lord for that. Lots of great eye candy at the game. I don't say this, by the way, as a pervert or a sex pervert or anything like that. I say that as there's a lot of beauty out there in people, and if you can acknowledge that beauty, physical or otherwise, whether it's physical outside or inner beauty or whatever, and you recognize everybody as a child of God made in His image, and you appreciate that beauty, like a lot of the great example was a lot of the Renaissance masters, like Michelangelo's David, and Da Vinci did a lot of things too. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, that sort of thing. You're an admirer of beauty. You're not lusting because you don't want to go to bed with those people, but the fact of simple admiration is great. And there was a lot of them at Tech football games, really throughout the season, not just in the warmer times. But that's kind of where I'm going with the body acceptance movement. There's obviously certain lines that can't be crossed between acceptance of beauty and lust, especially for a married guy like me. But appreciation and recognition of the beauty is something that there's a point that I'm trying to get across here, and I think I'm probably going on a little bit too much about it. Gosh, I can't wait to start that little project on that book. By the way, body acceptance is not the same thing as body positivity. And although if you are what is in the late woke era, if you're somebody who is benefiting from body positivity, you would have body acceptance if you came to a nude resort or a nude beach. No doubt you would be accepted. But the positivity problem has to do with potentially with a denial of health. People need to, I know people have all sorts of ailments and some things that they can't help. But, if you are trying to keep your temple healthy and as beautiful as it possibly can be, that falls under the positivity realm rather than the larger body acceptance realm. And just needed to make that distinction real quick. So anyway, I guess that's about it. That's all I have written here. Seemed like I had a lot more to talk about. Weather in Canyon has turned cooler. I know the first day of fall was yesterday. Very nice and refreshing. Would be great if it stayed like this all year. Like a lot of places in Texas, it's either too hot or too cold here in Canyon. And I know we're going to be warming up again well into the 80s as the week goes along. But it's nice and refreshing. I like it. It's football season. I mean, I know I'm talking about college football a lot. Not a big fan of the NFL, if you looked at one of my recent columns. But anyway, that's about all that I think I have for this show. So glad that you could join me again. Really, again, excited. I feel like I can't take this show any place but up. So, but anyway, as always, feel free to hit subscribe, tell your family and friends about me. Thank you for tuning in each and every week. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you're getting a lot out of this show, and hope it's entertaining and edifying, maybe even a little bit educational for you. So until next time, for It's a Frankly Hairy podcast, and here in the forest, I'm Frank Weber, signing off.